Hi folks, it's AJ with the Hunting Gear Guy. This is the Smith & Wesson FPC. There's been a bunch of reviews on these things, but I noticed that most of them are about a year old, which is kind of when these guns came out. I think Smith & Wesson must have sent out a bunch of T&E units for these things. Some of the information from some of the reviews that I saw was, some of it was true, some of it wasn't. If you combine all of them, you'll get the true story, but I thought I'd just put it all into one video. The other thing I didn't really see a lot of is like disassembly and that kind of thing. I'll be putting all of that in my video. As you can see, the chamber's empty and there's no magazine, so we're good to take a closer look at this thing. One thing you might notice is that these magazines have these weird spacers on it. That's like one of the reasons why that's like that is they opted for their compact grip so that they could fit all their magazines in here, from their compact pistols, regular length pistols, and if you take a regular length pistol mag and you just put it in there, you end up with this silly space in there. So that's why they've got those spacers. I think it's kind of a, I don't know. I don't like the solution. I guess if you were going to do this a lot, you could just like hit this with a little bit of glue and just leave it in there so it stays, and then you get that nice flush fit look all the time. But I would much have rathered, instead of they going with this compact grip, that they just went with a regular length grip. But that's because we don't have the compact ones in Canada, and so I don't care. So I might be biased there. The other thing that is kind of interesting about this stock is that it holds 2 magazines in there. So one thing I noticed just with some of the other reviewers is they were using this thing incorrectly. They were, or at least I think they were using it incorrectly. They were pulling up on it and then pulling the magazine out, which, I mean, I think, yeah, you can do it. It's possible, but I think the more likely way that they thought this would be used is you press the button and you pull the magazine on the other side. Now, it looks awkward on film. It's awkward for me too. I have to like press it and pull from the other side, and it's not really that great. And one thing it does is it makes this buttstock really wide, wider than I think it needs to be. And it's not that it really matters, like it's a little bit thick here. Who cares? That part doesn't really matter. I think I'd rather have a thinner buttstock that just holds 1 magazine than have this on here, or no magazine extra on the back. I don't really think it's necessary. And okay, you could say, well, you'll just take the magazines out. Okay, great. I take the magazines out. It's still pretty chunky compared to a normal stock. So it's still taking up a lot of space there that I just don't think is really necessary for this design. Now, moving on up, we get to the charging handle. And the charging handle on this thing, okay, keep in mind, everything on this is plastic. Like, plastic there, plastic there, plastic there. This charging handle can be run on one side if it's smoothed out. So it won't do it right from the factory on some of these, especially if the flashing of the plastic is tight. You may need to go over with both fingers to grab and charge that charging handle. But I find I can use just the one side just as easily really on this thing now that it's worked in a little bit. Coming up to the front here, we've got our ejection port. Let's just lock that up. We've got an ambi slide release that isn't really a great side release. Here, let me show you. I can't push this down. And on the other side, can I, without crushing my finger? Nope, I can't. I can't actually release the slide with the slide release. It's really just a slide hold open at best. You're just going to push it back and then push up on that to lock the bolt open. I don't think you're actually going to release the slide that way. I think you're going to release it by grabbing that charging handle and letting go of it, which is okay. I think that's fine. I don't have a particular need for a go fast slide release, and I think the charging handle in the back is fine. The safety, we got a cross bolt safety here. Let's put the bolt forward. So we're actually doing something here. There's our safety off, safety on. There's our safety off. Red is dead. And it's pretty ergonomic. If you take a look at the side of it there, it's got a nice teardrop shape there, a little scallop in it. It's very easy to use. I don't know why they put a safety on here. It's probably some US regulation that requires it, but they don't have a safety on the M&P pistols, and I think I like it that way. I'm not sure I really need one on the rifle. It's got, again, that trigger blade safety on there anyways, so do you really need the safety? I don't know. I'd argue not, but some would argue that it would. Speaking of that trigger, let's try out the pull weight and see what kind of pull weight we get off of this thing. So I'm going to depress past that that trigger lever, pulling straight back on it. And we get 4 pounds, 15 ounces, basically 5 pounds there, which is okay. It's not going to like light anything on fire here, but let's just watch that that pull there. So I'm pulling it back. It's got a little bit of squish in there, a little bit more, and then a sharp brake with a over travel stop just on the trigger there. It's okay. Not the best, but okay. And then just coming forward here, we have this large disassembly lever on the side. So all we do for this is push it forward, and then that unlocks from the side. That's locking into this really big plastic lug on the side. You can have your opinion on plastic, but that looks pretty chunky to me. And on this side, that looks pretty chunky to me as well. So we got some pretty big surfaces working together to lock this thing up tight. So I think it is going to stay tight. In any case, you don't put your optics on the receiver anyways, you put it on the forend. You can, I have seen like mounts for back here that replace these screws and put it on back here. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, because again, the barrel may be misaligned to the receiver, depending on where and all that other kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's a great idea. Maybe it's fine. I don't know. But I find this to work just fine. It folds it nice to the side. Then you have to kind of lock it on this latch back here. So I'm just going to pull this charging handle back a little bit. See that notch on that side? That's actually going to grab onto that M-lock slot on this side and hold the whole thing together. So it makes for a nice compact package. The side folding means that you get to leave your red dot or whatever on the rifle, which is better than, you know, your Kel-Tec, the Gen 1 and 2, the Sub-2000. With that one, you can't really put the optic on there, right? And in terms of optics, I would say this is red dot. Red dot, red dot, red dot. Because we're putting it so far forward here, it's really far forward on the gun. With a red dot, that's okay. That's fine for a red dot. In fact, I like having them mounted far forward like that. With a scope, you're not going to get enough eye relief. You're going to be way too far back. I am probably like 5-6 inches away from the back here. So unless you got like a reverse cantilever, it's a PCC. Just put a red dot on it. You don't need a scope on it. Speaking of the forend, okay, this is all plastic. It's going to be really hard for me to show you this, but you see those baffles in there? This plastic is basically, you can think of like a water gun, like your Super Soaker 50 and that kind of thing. See all these screws here? This is a clamshell plastic design. So it's cut in the middle. It's two halves of plastic. They're sandwiched and hold the barrel everywhere you see one of these ribs. It's grabbing onto the barrel. So this is not a free-floated barrel at all. You can see it's kind of sealed at the front there. That's those baffles that kind of hold on to the barrel as it goes through. So again, not a free-floated forend at all, but it's a PCC. Who cares, right? It makes the design very, very inexpensive. It makes the materials cost lower. We're not free-floated at all here, but I don't know. I guess your forend's going to be nice and solid. This one I have added a muzzle brake onto. I think this is a Maple Ridge Armory brake. It's pretty big, and it would be effective if there was much gas pressure up here, which there's not really a lot, but maybe it makes a little difference. Maybe a little bit. For dots, I've got a SIG Romeo 5 on here. This is the 5X, which means it has its own integrated mount with air height, and it uses a AAA instead of a 2032, which I like because I have lots of AAA batteries, and I don't mind the fact that it's on an integrated mount rather than a adjustable one. So that's why I put it on here. So I want to talk about some likes and dislikes about taking this thing out. Likes, the reliability hasn't skipped a beat for me. It's a very simple system, and when I take it down, the bolt, everything in here is very simple, very well engineered from a cost and simplicity standpoint, which is good in guns. Some of the things I didn't like, carrying it. There's not really a great way to sling this thing. They do have, they have a sling swivel in a really weird spot on this thing, and I can't quite figure out what it's for. Maybe one of you can tell me. there's the push button QD cup on the bottom. So, I mean, you can put one in there and carry it like single point style like this, because it will hang like that, right? But that's a weird thing to do with a QD cup. You can do the same thing with it disassembled. Like you can have it assembled, and you can run your QD cup through there and run it like that, single point. But then it's going to be hanging quite low on you. If that single point was a little bit higher up on the receiver and you had to use a single point sling, I think it would be okay. If you could put like one of those M-lock to push button QD swivels on the front, but then the fact that this one's on the back means that it's going to always want to turn sideways on you or turn upside down, which I don't know, neither of those are very good. I suppose it'll carry fine on your back if you were to wear it like that. But really, for the kind of gun that this is, I would have really preferred, you see how much air gap there is back here? I would have preferred if they had put cups on both sides here, because then you could put your sling in there, and when you're not using when you're not shooting the gun, you could have it slung up like this across your body, along with, you know, a cup mount up front. That would have been really cool. They definitely have the room up here. They definitely have the room back there. It's possible they could have done it. I think right now, if you're going to try to do that, you'd need a lot of epoxy, because this plastic here is a little bit thin. So just trying to do it now would be hard. When they were making it, if they were making the mold, they could have put a pocket in there for a QD cup. That would have been a better idea. All right, let's take this thing apart. This is actually pretty easy. I do like their disassembly method here. So we're going to push down on this buttstock, and then we're going to pull up on this button, and then we're going to release the pressure. There's a little bit of spring under there. We're going to pull this out. There's that spring in there I was talking about. Stock's off. Easy, right? Next up, we have kind of the back here, and we've got this pin. So all we need to do is just relieve the pressure a little bit, push that pin out the side. You can see it's coming out there, and then just kind of wiggle it on out. Holding on there because the recoil spring's behind it. There's our follower. Not a follower, it's not following anything. To remove, we're going to push back, and we're looking at this hole kind of in the back there. We're going to pull it up. Where is that unlock? There it is. Pull it up until you can see like a little divot in there. Then you're going to need something pokey to kind of poke through there. I'm going to move my charging handle forward, and you can see that pin. We're just going to push that pin out. So I've pushed it out. There's my pin. That's how it was in there. Okay, pin's out. I'm just going to put it on its side so it doesn't have so much pressure on it. Wiggle it. Come on. Wiggle that pin out there that I just had. Now I can remove my recoil spring and the bolt. And the bolt is really heavy, but on a 9mm straight blowback, it's going to have to be like 1.5 pounds, right? So out comes that bolt from the back. And this bolt is 2 pieces, so you can see that I just remove it just like that. There's our bolt face, and there, this is just a piece of metal. It's just a big, chunky, heavy piece of steel that we're using. I think what they're going to do, this is going to allow them to change bolt faces and very easily, like reuse this part, change this part, and change to different calibers, right? There you can see it's getting kind of gross in there. If you were to clean this gun, this is the part you'd want to clean, the bolt face. This is the part that's really going to get like cruddy. The other place you're going to want to clean is the chamber, and luckily that is really easy to clean because, well, there you go. There's your chamber. So you can just brush that out and get that carbon out of there and any of the other crap. And that's basically it. I mean, if you want to, you can remove the charging handle, but there's really no point in doing that. It just kind of pops off just like that. And yes, we can see it's just a piece of plastic. And then to put it back on, we're just going to get the back of it on, push it back into the position, and then down. Yes, and then down. And that's our charging handle back on there. Now, I'm not going to show any other disassembly. You can reverse the magazine release. So if you're a lefty and you want to move the mag catch to the other side, that's possible. There's your screw right there to remove it. Pretty quick thing to do. The slide, or the hold open rather, is already ambi, and the safety, I don't know if you can change it to the other side or not, but I'm not a lefty, so I'm not going to do that anyways. All right, I've given my bolt face a very cursory clean over. We're just going to pop these two pieces together, kind of hold them together there. We're going to put them into the back of the gun. I'm going to move it. What I want to see is these two holes basically align, so I can get that pin in there. Whoa, that's the wrong hole. That's the right hole. That's what she said. There's my pin there. I'm just going to drop it into position. And what's my next step here? Oh, you know what? My charging handle probably, right? No, that's already done. So let's do the recoil spring, I guess. Get it around the tail of that thing. This little follower guy here. Oh, is my bolt all the way forward? No, it's not. Let's make sure that I get that straight. All right, just kind of threw it up and down just to get that bolt in there. There, now the spring's not going to be so compressed. There's my little follower there. So I need to get this hole, I need to put that pin through it. So I need to make sure that is aligned with this hole right here. Pushing it down until I can see it. And I can see through there. Let's get this guy in there. Thankfully it's pretty easy to rotate while I'm doing this. There's one side. And I'm just going to look at it from the other side. Oh, too far. There we go. Just in there. You think like, oh, that's going to fall out. Now the stock's going to hold it on there, right? And then all we're going to do is push down on here. And it latches on there. So good. So good. So ultimately, how does this rifle compare in the market? So I think its closest competitors are going to be the Kel-Tec Sub-2000, Gen 1, 2, and 3, and the Ruger PC carbine. Those are going to be its two biggest competitors. The Ruger PC carbine comes in a couple of different trims that I think are pretty interesting. The Ruger PC carbine is takedown, but I do think the folding is better for going out backpacking and that kind of thing, because you can fold it down and that makes for a nice compact package. You can chuck this in a backpack or side carrying cat. You could actually put this in a motorbike. The Ruger PC carbine you can as well, but then you have to pack it differently. You could use a carrying case. That's one option you could use. And in fact, this gun comes with a nice, well, it's not really little. It's not really a little carrying case. It's actually kind of big for the size of the gun, but they put basically all your stuff from the factory in here. So in this one, you've got your grip modules. I've got the chamber flag in there. So you do have a bunch of grip modules for changing out that grip if you choose so. The next pocket has like a sling for the case itself. I would rather just carry the gun than the whole case. And then we've got some pockets on the bottom here, some quite large ones. You could have extendo mags in here if you want some longer magazines. You'll also get your manual and your piece of shit lock that you can just throw straight into the garbage and use something else instead. On the other side, we have some straps and we have a whole bunch of Velcro for holding things on. I don't really like these things that much. I don't really like the way that this holds on. I would rather that instead of going through, because right now it's you go through the buckle and then up and around to hold it on. I would rather they just, I don't know, just have the straps in here or no straps at all. You don't really need to even strap this thing down. You can just plunk it in there. Because like the edges of this thing are padded. These are padded right here. The walls are padded. So it doesn't matter if the rifle's like jostling around in there because there's nothing for it to scratch against. It's folded and there's no reason to strap it against the side like this other than to feel very tactical and very cool. So I don't really think it's necessary. You can see that this case, this is a Canadian legal CZ FPC. So the barrel's a little bit longer and I have a really big break on it and it fits in here no problem. I think this case is too big. I think I would rather have a smaller case that you can just more easily pack along. The other difference with this rifle compared to, say, the Sub-2000, the Sub-2000, okay, they both fold. I think the Sub-2000 folds more compactly in a way that you want more. Because it folds over to the top, it's actually not very wide. Because this one folds to the side, it's really, well, it's twice the width, right? And that area is just not compressible. So it does make for a chunkier profile, which, depending on how you're storing it, if you're putting it in a case or if you're putting it in a backpack or something like that, this will take up more space in a way that you don't want it to than the Sub-2000. But you get to mount your optics on it. And I think that is probably worth it, because having your dot on the gun like that is just better. I know that the new Sub-2000, like the Gen 3, has a twisty-turny forend. The one I played with, it felt kind of jank. So I don't know if I really like that. I think, like, with a Sub-2000, if you're going to stay with the sights that it comes with, boy, that's a very compact package. But if you want something with a dot, I think the FPC is the better way to go. Now, the only other thing to mention is that because this is Smith & Wesson, and Smith & Wesson has to, they use Smith & Wesson mags, no Glock mags. That might be a deal breaker for you. If you already have an M&P or something like that, well, maybe this would be definitely the way to go, because now you can share your mags, because they have been so careful to make sure that all your mags are going to fit in this thing. If you wanted your subcompact pistol and your PCC to run the same mags, hey, you're good to go. You can do that with this rifle. If you wanted to run Glock mags, because they're quite a bit cheaper and more readily available, I think your Ruger PC carbine or your Sub-2000s are going to be a little bit better for that kind of a thing. The only other things I'll have to mention about this rifle, here in Canada, we get these 10-rounder mags. They're not really 10 rounds in my experience. When I try to get 10 in these things, usually it's like that 10th round is so tight. It's almost like they're made for like 9.9 rounds, and you just have to ram the crap out of that 10th to get in there. You can modify these a little bit so that you can get that 10th round in, and it's not such a pain in the ass by modifying the follower there. I'm not going to show that on this video, but you might want to do that, because imagine you got 10 rounds in here, you actually managed to get it in, and you wanted to put that 10 round mag in on a closed bolt. It's not going to do it. It's just going to be too tight. So you may want to modify, again, at your own risk, to the magazines so that they fit a true 10 rounds, which is legal in Canada. This is a pistol magazine, right? Yes, this is a rifle here, but this is a pistol magazine. That's why we get to run 10 round mags in it in Canada, because it matters what the mag is designed for, not what the rifle, not what you use it in, I guess is what I was going for there. Pretty cool firearm. I think like for 3-gun and that kind of thing, for multi-gunning, they're okay. They're very light on the forend, because all we really have here is this barrel. This plastic here is weighing almost nothing, so it's very quick to point and that kind of thing. Non-adjustable buttstock. You can't move it back and forward. There is an aftermarket one of these from Tacom, I think, was looking at making one, like a really thin one, which I would be kind of interested in, because this whole idea of like carrying extra mags in here doesn't really hold a lot of appeal to me. Maybe it does to you. Other than that, yeah, cool rifle. Right around $1,000 here in Canada, although on sale you can get it for less, around $800. The Sub-2000s right now are kind of in the high 600s, low 700s. The Ruger PC carbines are around $1,000 depending on which version you get. So it's right in there in the mix with all the other ones. I think reliability-wise, it's pretty good. It might have the edge over the Ruger PC carbine, which should be reliable, but boy, I see a lot of them fail at 3-gun matches. Whereas the Sub-2000, like the internal mechanism is quite complicated, because it's got a complete clamshell design even for the front part there, whereas this just has clamshell on the forend. Quite a bit less extendability with this thing. Triggers, barrels, forends, stocks, like there's just not very much available because they're so new. But I think that all in all, it's a cool rifle. I think that it has a place, and I think that some people are going to be buying them and enjoying them for that kind of PCC action. Thanks for watching.